Welcome to The World According To on the networks of IMTS Plus. Over the next few minutes, we'll talk to Brendt Holden, president of Heimer USA. We'll learn a little bit about his background and his take on the future of our industry. So Brendt, tell me a little bit about how you started your journey in manufacturing.
How I got into manufacturing is definitely not your typical method. I went on to college, like many did from Glen Ellen, and I got a degree in journalism, of all things, from Miami University. Well, at the time, I had a really good friend from high school whose father owned a small machine shop called Zever Tool. So the first day I show up to work and I'm wearing a suit and tie, and he looks at me and says, "Why in the world are you wearing a suit and tie? Go home and put on jeans and a t-shirt." So I did. And for about the first 6 weeks working there, all I did was clean machines. But then he got me going and I learned how to do some marking of parts. Then he got me on the surface grinder, the ID grinder, the OD grinder, some honing. Then I went over to the lathe and mill to learn manual lathe and mill work. And being young, he said, "Okay, we got a couple new CNC machines. Why don't you learn that? You know computers." And then to advance a bit, I went to the local community college at night to learn more about what was I actually doing during the day. And that taught me a lot about the industry. And so that was really how I got into manufacturing. I saw an ad in the newspaper. There was a company looking for a regional sales engineer. The company was called Technara Tooling. They were the first importer of the Heimer product. That allowed me to meet the family, allowed me to meet the engineers, and build up a little rapport with Heimer. I did then in turn leave Technara and go to another company, which was called HPI Nikken. I was at the IMTS show in the year 2000. The very last day, I'm walking around the show, and all of a sudden I hear my name. I hear, Brendt. Well, lo and behold, it's Mrs. Heimer. And then the engineer, who I was friends with from my days working at Technara, said, "Hey, I have to show you this new product we have." They showed me inductive shrink machine, and I said, "Wow, this thing is fantastic. Is anyone importing this to the US?" At HPI Nikken, we became the first importer of the Heimer shrink fit machine. In 2001, Heimer came up to me and said, "Hey, would you think about starting the North American operation?" It was my wife and I. My wife, who had some experience with customer service work, basic accounting. We worked out of our townhouse in Wheaton. It gave the Heimers time to make inch product and cat tool holders, because they had not been making that before, because there was no need in Europe or in Germany. Then we were able to move into this facility where we are now in 2003. In the same location as 22 years ago, but grown enough where we have the whole building, and it allows us to do a lot more for our staff and for our customers.
Could you talk a little bit about what Heimer stands for in the world of technology?
The innovation and technology at Heimer really does set us apart, and it does all start with the family. Mr. Heimer is a true engineer by trade. Mrs. Heimer is the chief marketing officer and co-CEOs with Mr. Heimer. We make 4,000 tool holders a day. So we're not just an assembly house, we're actually making an end product. To make an end product, we have to look at what do we need as a company to be more successful in the sense of more productive. So Mr. Heimer said, let's make our own tool holders. We can figure out a way to make what we really need to be more productive. Balancing. As the spindles got faster and faster, we needed to balance our tool holder assemblies in order that we can protect our spindles, get better surface finish, better part balancing, but more importantly, run our machines as fast as they were made to run so that we can be more productive. So we made our own balancing machine. Inductive shrink machines and tool presetters is exactly the same thing. So really, everything that we introduce or deliver to the market is based on our own needs in our own production. Mr. Heimer, he gives our staff, our engineering staff, a task every year. They have to come up with 5 new products to bring to market.
Could you talk about what automation means to the job shop community?
Some people get a little intimidated by the word automation, and they think, oh goodness, we're gonna change everything, everything's gonna be robotic, everything's gonna be totally different. But it doesn't need to be that way. In fact, I encourage people, if they want to get into automation, particularly for a job shop, start slow. I mean, automation could be as simple as a part shuttling system, or some way to get the parts in and out of the machine automatically. It could include a robot, maybe to load parts. but it doesn't need to be this grand change of everything. In fact, I would highly recommend you don't try to bite off more than you can chew to start.
Could you talk a little bit about how Heimer is embracing digital manufacturing?
If you think about some of the technologies available for digitization, it's about monitoring what's happening during the machining cycle, and then making sure that when you've monitored it, you can make adjustments or keep it running steady so that you get the same production each and every time. And most people don't think about the tool holder component, but if it's not set up the same each and every time, all that data you've collected is really worth nothing. Additional side is we have componentry within our tool room. You can use RFID chips to monitor how long was that tool holder in the machine, so then you can start to track data and then collect the data and make the appropriate corrections. Tool holders and the stuff that we deal with as far as the machine tool accessories are often overlooked when it comes to the digitization component, but we really feel it's an incredibly important part of where the customer needs to look in order to complete the circle of digitization and give themselves the most efficiency.
So let's talk a little bit about your customers.
Building the relationship's the most important thing, and it does come with trust in the product, trust in the support, and then also trust that we're going to be bringing them what we feel is going to help their facility. We can actually be involved in all that's being produced, and that's really led to all kinds of really fun stuff to see, from aerospace and defense, even to the EV, or machining of what they call the skateboard, the platform of these EV vehicles, all the way up to things you wouldn't think of, people making tennis shoes.
Working for a European company, I would assume that sustainability is of heightened interest.
Sustainability is very important, and it's becoming more and more important here in the United States, even more than I thought it would be. In Germany, we take a lot of steps to be sustainable. We have solar panel, we have zero emissions, things like that is what we're striving for. We've seen that a lot of the manufacturing facilities, particularly the large ones, are asking their employees to make sure the purchasing decisions they make are made with companies that are proven to be sustainable, and Heimer is one of them.
So, the world, according to Brendt Holden, is?
The world, according to Brendt Holden, is promising. The opportunity for all these companies is just exciting, encouraging, and really endless possibilities.
And that's it for this episode of The World According to. Our thanks to Brendt Holden of Heimer USA. We'll see you on the next episode of The World According to on IMTS Plus.